beautiful Sunday morning. The Jiu-Jitsu program, as yet unnamed, coming at you. Now, here we are. This is our first attempt at doing this thing, and we'll see how it goes. It may be awful. We may decide never to do it again. This may never see the light of day, and I'm okay with that. But we have Markezinho here. We're going to talk to him in a minute. We have the great Jason Fife. Jason Fife, you're...
Hi, everybody. It's me, Jason Fife.
Thank you. And we actually have a guest that we did not anticipate today, and that is the pain train himself, Josh Hesser.
Hi.
So we have a couple things we want to discuss today. As I mentioned, we don't have a name for this yet. It may not even be worth, coming up with a name. But a couple of things that I thought of. You guys can tell me if you like them or not. Brazilian Jiu-Jidiots was one, and the Disgracie podcast. What do you think?
I actually like the first one better.
Brazilian Jiu-Jidiots?
Yes, only because that will make most people mad.
I think so too. What do you think, Jason Fife?
I like the first one also.
I wanted to mention that before we started today, I did tell Jason Fife that I wanted him to do this entire podcast with a mouth guard in, and he was going to do it. So that's very dutiful. That's, he's a guy who knows how to be a team player. So it's great. Markezinho, anything that you'd like to bring up?
No, not at the moment.
Is this going to be like one of those Penn and Teller things where I'm the guy who does all the talking and you just kind of are in the background?
Well, we need a subject to talk about first.
We will. I mean, we'll have a subject, but, Markezinho, international man of mystery, we're going to have to get into Markezinho. That's going to be one of our topics. I think that we could discuss at length. But because, this is a martial arts-based program, let's talk about something. I don't know how much I really want to get into competitive Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because that's kind of a niche within a niche. But something happened this week or last weekend, major tournament, and Keenan Cornelius came up against Joao Miyao, and they got into one of these 50-50 battles where they basically both just got each other in sitting half guard, and nothing happened. And from what I understand, the referee warned them 4 times, warned them both, and then just disqualified them both. And on the internet forums, the jiu-jitsu forums, there's been a lot of opinions about this, but almost all of them, almost everything that I've seen has been people applauding the decision to disqualify them because they feel that the 50-50 thing is really boring. It's a stalling tactic. It's really slow. And really the only person that I've seen that was completely against it was Tom Callis, who is Keenan Cornelius' dad. So of course he's going to feel one certain way about it. But what do you guys think about the whole 50-50 stalling thing?
Well, first off, I'm not really sure exactly what position the 50-50 is.
God bless you. 50-50 is like neither one will assume top. It's like they both want to pull guard so bad that they both sit and they intertwine their legs. And it's almost like that reverse heel hook position, but they're both guarding their heels, but just it's kind of one leg wrapped over the other and they're facing each other. And there's really not, you could just sit there almost indefinitely because it's just all twined up.
I didn't see the match, but were they actually going for stuff or were they just stalling from that position?
They were there for a long time.
Okay.
And that's kind of what they're both known for. And I should know this, but I don't know if one of them was up on points and just holding on or, whatever. But it grinds things right down to a halt. I was talking to Exor about this the other day. He was talking about the one with Mendez, Rafa Mendez against Cobrinha. And he said in that match, it was so fast he couldn't even identify what was going on. Those guys it was just a constant scramble and sub positions and movement. And he said it moved so fast and it was, almost so exciting. He couldn't even score it because he couldn't see what was going on. This seems to be the exact opposite. And what's interesting also is that these two guys are not heavyweights. You'd almost expect like super heavyweights who don't move as quickly to, rest or whatever. But these guys should be scrambling.
Hey, I didn't see the match, but
I mean, my thought is if it's not against the rules, I mean, you could have guys that are spending 3 minutes standing going for grip fighting. What's the difference? I mean, would you disqualify them? They're not actively engaged at the moment. These guys are in 50-50. Like I said, I didn't exactly see it, but I imagine they're at least probably grip fighting or trying to set up a foot lock, heel hook, something like that. But I know it doesn't make for an exciting match. But again, if it's not against the rules, why disqualify?
Right, and it's not against the rules yet. And I think, the major argument that people have is that it's boring. But then that leads to the question of, well, who cares if it's boring? What does boring mean? Are we trying to make this a major spectator sport? I have the feeling that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu will never be a major spectator sport.
That's a good thing.
I think it's a good thing, and I think the farther it stays away from the Olympics, the better. But I mean, that's probably a completely different topic. But people are saying it's boring. I don't know if the boringness thing matters that much, because there are always competitors who have a slower, more plodding style that might be deemed boring, and that's not illegal. But the other point is, I mean, what is jiu-jitsu about? It's about winning by submission, and this is the antithesis of that. This is just just holding on, going for points, where it's just completely become a points-based game, and that's it. And it's almost like these guys are, it's points on submission takes a backseat to points. Points are what matters, and don't even go for submission. And is that jiu-jitsu? I mean, that's the question. What do you think, Jason Fife? Very opinionated guy, been doing jiu-jitsu for over a year.
I think if it should be allowed, but if there's nothing going on, it doesn't look like they're doing anything with it, they should be stood back up.
Standing back up?
From standing.
Who do you think is better, Keenan Cornelius or Joao Miyao?
I have no idea.
I appreciate the honesty of that response. Markezinho.
What do you think Helio Gracie would be thinking?
Helio Gracie would be completely opposed to all of this. Obviously he wasn't somebody who was against competition. He believed in competition, but his style of competition was certainly, he came from the early Valley Tudo days, and it was all about surviving and then finishing from behind, and not, just tangling up legs in some yoga position and looking at each other. I don't think he would like it. Moving on. Anything else to say about that, Jason Fife? I know you follow the jiu-jitsu competition strategy.
Nothing else really to say about that. Just standing back up. Not much is going on.
Sorry, I left the room for a second. Are we still talking about that match?
Yes.
Because I actually have a couple things to say about that. A lot of people bring this up, especially like, I don't mean to compare the UFC or MMA or anything to sport jiu-jitsu, but a lot of people, especially the fans, are always complaining like, oh, people aren't pushing the pace, it's boring. The people who are competing really I don't believe owe it to the fans to, I mean, they're trying to win. So it's not like, why do we expect them to do an exciting match just for us to watch? I mean, I can kind of understand that if we're talking like MMA or the UFC, because people are paying to go in there and watch it and stuff like that, and they're a business in their own. But even though we might think it's boring, that doesn't mean that we can tell them, oh, you can't do that or you can't do this.
Right. Yeah. But again, it comes down to, do you appreciate that point specific strategy?
No.
And it's up to them to play the game. And they are playing the game to the rules that are set right now. But, will something like this set a precedent where they're later going to go back and, the IBJJF or whoever will say, okay, there's no more 50-50. And now, is that fair? Because some people use 50-50 fairly aggressively. And the same thing is happening in judo. They're changing the rules constantly in judo, and a lot of people who've been in judo for a while are opposed to it. Like, there's this whole new thing now in judo where you can't grab somebody's pants, and there's a lot of throws in judo that come from grabbing the pants, but now you can't do it because wrestlers are getting good at judo, and now they're scoring judo points on double leg takedowns and stuff, and so it's for me, it always just comes back. There's been a push lately with submission only tournaments, And I think that, the only thing there is that they could run a little long, but the ones that we've seen haven't. In fact, they're done way earlier than Nagas, so.
You're saying it's a point situation. Maybe I don't agree. Even if it were submission only at that point, they may just be playing to the strength of their game. Why do something that's out of your zone to put yourself in a bad situation? I mean, if 50-50 is where they both feel their strength is, why wouldn't they use that?
I see that, but I also don't. I don't know if that's. I think that they are using it specifically to sit there, and just wait it out. And again, they're playing. There's nothing against in the rule set against that. But at the end of the day, they're the one walking away with the medal because they got 2 advantages, and then they just sat.
Well, you can do that with any position. I mean, some people really go for it from their guard. Some people close down the guard and hold the person there. Right. So it doesn't matter if it's 50-50. If you have a top position where you're just holding the person.
Yeah. I
mean, you could say that about any position. I mean, some people stall from there. Some people don't. I mean, any position, if you're just trying to stall, I understand that. But
and it is true that these guys fought each other last year, and Keenan armbarred Miyao from that position. So I don't know. It's complex, but I'll say that I am bored to tears watching matches like that. It's just boring. So, but they're not fighting for me. They're fighting for medals.
Exactly.
And the other thing is too. Maybe we'll talk about this another time a little bit more. But Metamoris 2 is coming up, and as far as I'm concerned, I am far more interested in Metamoris than UFC. I know that puts me in the minority of men between the ages of 18 and 50, but I don't think I'm alone in this room. And the last Metamoris was really good. I think the card on this one I'm a little less interested in, but there's some interesting looking stuff on there.
Kron Gracie, right?
Kron is
Aoki.
Yeah, almost anything that Kron is in. I just like that style of jiu-jitsu. He doesn't invert. He doesn't do crazy stuff. He sticks to the basics, and I just like that style. But maybe we'll talk about that later.
That should be a good match too, because their styles are so different.
Yeah,
you have Aoki who goes for all this crazy stuff, and Kron. Sorry,
yeah.
He's very basic, so that can make for a really cool match.
Yeah, I think so too. I definitely like his style of competition. But yeah, maybe we'll talk about Metamoris a little more next time. The specific topic today that I wanted to talk about, and it's good that we have these, all of us in the room right now to talk about this, is, doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a very physical activity, but as in all things, we age. And I think, Jiu-Jitsu, you can play Jiu-Jitsu for a long time. I mean, Helio Gracie did it until his 96th birthday or something. So... obviously you got to be careful with it, but, everyone in this room, we're all in our 30s. And speaking for myself, I'm in my mid-30s, and except for Mark. We'll get to Mark in a minute. I'm in my mid-30s. Jason Fife's in his mid-30s, and I'm feeling it. And I've been a martial artist for a while, so there might be, accruing injuries just kind of adding up over the years here and there. But there's some things that just hurt more than they should. And, that it will affect your jiu-jitsu game, but should the game you play be altered in terms of longevity? So I could say to myself, I really want to do all this crazy kind of explosive, getting stacked a lot, rubbery kind of stuff. And I could do that for a little while, but is that going to hurt me long enough in the long run where I'm going to look back on it when I'm 40 and go, you know what, I should have just stuck to the basics and not got all screwed up like this. What do you guys think? By the way, Markezinho, we don't know exactly how old he is. He is the international man of mystery. I believe he's somewhere between 40 and 60, but it's up to him if he wants to divulge that information.
Yeah, close enough. What do I think about that?
Yeah.
I think it's huge. I think it's something that's probably my priority right now, just to not be injured when I'm rolling. That's number one. A new guy walks in, somebody I don't know. The first thing I'm doing, I'm changing my game. It's going to be very defensive, kind of feel it out, see what's going to happen. I'm basically playing it safe. I don't want to take chances at this point. I want to keep training for a long time. So, unfortunately, I've had a few injuries, and I find that as I get older, it takes a lot longer for them to heal. So, just want to stay on the mat. So, I'm conservative with my rolling now.
Absolutely. And as guys, we're not competitive. You're a purple belt. You've been training more than 5 years. I'm a brown belt, and I'm not really into the tournament thing. So, pushing the pace, going hard in terms of winning stuff is not our priority at all. So at this point, it really is longevity. And I think if you stick with it long enough, that's going to be the point for everybody. So maybe start thinking about that early. Jason Fife, you're a white belt. You've been training over a year, but you're one of these guys that I don't want to say you're impervious to pain, but you just seem to care about it less than others. And I've seen you, get triangled or get armbarred to the fullest extent of those submissions before you tap. I mean, you really would make people work for it. And in the last couple months, you've completely changed that idea. And if somebody has you, they have you, and you tap out early. What went into that thought process?
The same thought process of eventually this is going to take its toll on me. My joints are getting weaker. I can feel over the course of my jiu-jitsu.
As a result of your jiu-jitsu or as a result of your age?
As a result of it.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's okay to go hard, but going hard all the time is just going to wear everything down. So, and like he was saying, the new guy I'm not too worried about. It's the guys that go really, really hard. I usually try to go defensive against those guys.
Right.
A lot, but that's about it.
In your estimation, Jason Fife, being someone who so specifically follows the tournament situation, who do you think is going to win, Andre Galvao or Rafael Lovato Jr. in Metamoris 2? Say again?
Rafael
Lovato. Why would you say that?
Just looks better.
He's got a cooler name.
Yeah.
Cooler name, yep.
Okay.
I actually think it kind of, talking about longevity and stuff, it depends on what you're trying to do. People who are really into competition and stuff like that, I mean, if you're not pushing the pace on a somewhat regular basis, you're not going to do good in competition. So you kind of have to take it and say, all right, well, I really want to compete. I really want to be the best. I might not last as long down the road, but I got to put that work in right now. For all of us who are sitting here, I mean, we do it for fun, so it's kind of pointless for us to always push it like that. Okay, big deal if I go crazy and I get a tap, on class on Sunday morning, who really cares? So we just want it for fun. We want to do it longer. So if we're trying to push ourselves and get injured, we're not having fun doing it. I mean, we're not looking to go in the tournament. I can understand pro athletes and people who compete like that having to push it, and they might regret it later in life. But I mean, all pro athletes do that. That's just, you got to give up one thing to get another thing.
Right. And I wouldn't compare Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to, football, professional football, but those professional football guys are destroyed when they're done. I mean,
especially linemen.
Yeah, completely destroyed forever, And, Jiu-Jitsu is obviously quite different, but...
Joe Namath would agree with you.
Say again?
Joe Namath would agree with you.
Yeah, and we in jiu-jitsu, I think we get a different type of injury too, and it's it's more like, it's probably less of a dramatic, my knee just exploded in all directions, and it's more like I just twisted this a little too much and that a little too much, and now I'm 47 and everything kind of hurts, and just playing it safe.
There's people that are much better about that though. I mean, if you think about it, and always make sure that every time you train, one thing I try and do with all my students now is make sure they do the warm-up. And if guys come late to my class, for people who do come late to my class, I'm going to make you do the warm-up before you jump into class, because a lot of people start rolling and start doing stuff when they're cold. If you warm up good before you spar to do the moves, that's going to help in the long run. And especially if you stretch after, which I don't do. But, I mean, things like that is really going to help. So, but I don't think sometimes a lot of people don't think about that.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that as anyone else. My warm up lots of times is, hey Mark, come here, let's go. We start slow, but we had a guy who came here for a long time who religiously would ice his joints after every class, and we've never had particularly competitive, explosive classes where everyone at the end is totally destroyed. But he just out of habit, every time he'd bring a little cooler with him and he'd ice his knees and elbows. And I remember the first time he did it, I said, "Did you get hurt?" He goes, "No." He goes, I'm 40 and I just, I just don't want to have swelling in my joints and I want to be able to walk when I'm 70. Oh, wow, that's pretty cool. I have to say that thus far I have not been disciplined enough to do stuff like that, which I'm sure is, preventative.
This is and that doesn't have to do with jiu-jitsu, but I mean sports in general. A lot of I raced motorcycles throughout my life, and a lot of motorcycle races now they get knee braces. They make these knee braces, and the guys wear them from the beginning. And the whole reason is that it helps avoid the injury altogether.
Right.
So they wear both knee braces from the time they're young before they ever hurt their knees, with just the idea that, okay, well, if I wear it now, my knees will be
preventative from the start.
Preventative from the beginning.
Yeah. That's perfect. I just think we just got to be smart about it. And I wish I could go back and tell myself when I was younger, and I haven't had, tremendous injuries from jiu-jitsu or anything, but, just feel stuff adding up. I wish that I could kind of go back and say, all right, you're moderately flexible, but don't let yourself get stacked up like that. Don't let your knees get put up by your ears, because it's just, it may not hurt right now, but it's gonna later. The amount of times I've had my arm hyperextended and hurts for 2 days, but how's that gonna feel in 10 years? And if somebody younger were listening to this, 24, 23 or whatever, and they're kind of in that state now where they're like, nothing really hurts and they don't really need to warm up. I sound like your dad saying this, but
they won't listen.
They're not going to listen, but take it a little bit slower. Listen to Markezinho. Listen to the wisdom of Markezinho. Lay some wisdom on us, Markezinho.
Before Markezinho talks, I would just like to say that no one in this room is old by any means.
Correct.
No, you're right, but parts of us feel that way. I think as a result of some of the training decisions we've made. Put this topic to rest here, Markezinho, if you would.
Put it to rest. Tap early, tap often.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it. I mean, don't be afraid to tap. So.
And we could get in a whole discussion of, jiu-jitsu, how it relates to ego, and that very much comes into this too. Because if you're that person who's going to hold on forever until you have to tap, that's not so much an issue with the person you're going against. It's your ego, And if you have challenges with that, you're probably going to get busted up a lot more early than someone else who doesn't care about tapping out, which I certainly don't. But all right, so that's it. Anyone else? Jason Fife, any other pithy observations to make on the ravages of age on the jiu-jitsu body?
None about the ravages of age, but I think that if you're rolling hard like that, you're only like building your tolerance and your endurance somewhat. If you're not rolling so hard and you're more slow and tapping more, you're probably learning like more technique and more position, positional and all that stuff.
Yeah, and the truth is, if you're coming to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as your sole means of fitness, the rude awakening is that the better you get at Jiu-Jitsu, the less of an exercise it is, oftentimes, and that's why sometimes we see fat, advanced guys, because they can control the pace and do it. But let's.
You're not pointing anyone out in particular, are you?
No, I know.
Okay,
no.
I just wonder.
No, everyone in this room is perfectly, fight ready. But I want to bring this up. So there was a submission only tournament, the New England submission only tournament put on by our friends Rob and Brad a couple weeks ago up in Manchester, and Jason Fife competed in both gi and no gi. And as I was watching, what you got to know about Jason Fife is that he is not the most aggressive guy in the world. He's definitely someone you want to roll with because he's not going to hurt you, and he'll let you do the things that you want to practice and stuff. He doesn't have any mat ego where he has this need to crush you or whatever. He's a really good training partner, but he's not super aggressive. And he came out against this kid. I think was he from Soulcraft?
Yes. Yes, he was.
This is first of all, you got an armbar in your gi division, right?
Yes, in gi, my first gi match.
Yeah, which is really good. But the no gi division, you came out against a kid from Soulcraft, and he was younger, and he was running game on you. Like I was looking all the way across the mat. I was working the table, and I'll admit this, I wasn't paying attention. I was watching your fight, and this kid was all over you. I mean, it was like omoplata to triangle to armbar to, I mean, and he was just, it was 15 minutes of pure offense on his part. And I saw you got a triangle for like a half a second once, but I think Josh was on the side of the mat. He said, "Give it up, you're not getting it," or something like that. And he kind of let it go. But you would escape from everything that he did, and that's perfect. I think that's awesome, and ultimately what happened was you both got disqualified because there was no submission. But I mean, this kid had it so close on you so many times, and you got that Jason Fife smile on your face the whole time. And how, disheartening is that when this kid is like, putting all his energy into closing off that triangle, he looks down and you're just smiling, and not in a jerky way either. You're just like, just having fun or whatever.
I actually, when I was coaching him, I pointed out, I looked at the person next to me, I said, Jason Fife just never stops smiling, does he?
No, never. He could be sparring Muay Thai and he gets a guy, chops him in the leg and then punches him in the face. He's still got that look. He's still got that Jason Fife look, which works for him. Yeah, it's, people look at that and they're like, what, is there something wrong with this guy? Like, and maybe there is, but it's, but it works for him. It's the Jason Fife smile. But anyway, do you have any comments on that particular match?
In general, I just love Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah, that match was really he was really technical and he was on me the whole time, and it was pretty much all defense on my part. It was defending against. He'd get me in a triangle, defend, figure a way to get out of it, get me in a Kimura, the same thing.
Yeah.
Just, he just kept on getting me and stuff. After I'd get out of one thing, it was almost to the next. And a slight moment where I had sort of like a triangle. He got both of his arms out, so I went with the arm across the other side of the neck.
Right.
Whatever. I'm not sure exactly what that's called.
Yeah.
But that's about the only time I was offensive.
And honestly, as your teacher, I think you got more, and I'm happier that you had that match than if you had just come out against somebody and wasted them in 2 minutes. I think you got a lot more out of 15 minutes of pure defense. Because everybody gets all caught up on, just coming into jiu-jitsu. Oh, I want to get the armbar and a triangle and all this stuff that I see in the UFC, but defense comes first. And if you can defend yourself against somebody who's good, trying to tap you for 15 straight minutes, I think that's saying something about your training. That's definitely a good thing.
I felt like it was really good because, now I know what to expect more than if I want to get somebody really easy. So for my next competition, that being my first, I'm going to be a lot more prepared next time.
And by the way, that kid got his blue belt 3 days later.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
Jason Fife, how many stripes on your white?
One stripe. One
stripe, so he held this kid off who's basically blue belt level. Markezinho, any comment on that situation?
Yeah, I was just wondering, looking back on that, did you think, looking back, did you think that you should have tapped at some point? Or did you come out of that feeling like you made the right decision? Did you have any injury coming out? Did you push too far, or what do you think?
I felt like I did push a little bit too far with the Kimura. The Kimura, my shoulder's been hurting a little bit, but not anything major, so it's kind of iffy whether I should have tapped or not.
It's tough in the moment there. I imagine it's not the same as an open mat, but again, it's a different level when you're competing, so that's good.
Yep.
Yeah. Especially against a young. That kid looked like he was about 19. Do you know how old he was?
I don't know his age. He was a younger kid, I think.
So easily half the age or less than Markezinho.
Yes.
So, but this is the last topic I want to talk about. We're just gonna hijack this a little bit. Mark thought we were having a podcast today, but this is actually an intervention. No, I'm just kidding, Mark. Don't run out. But let's talk about Markezinho a little bit. So, if you don't know Markezinho, he's purple belt. He's in the 40 plus range, and he's been here a long time. He teaches a Sunday morning class, which is really popular. But he's such an enigmatic guy. And I had someone tell me the other day that the movie Jack Reacher is about Mark, and it's not even embellished. And I've never seen that movie, but that's what I understand, that Tom Cruise played you in the movie.
Is that the one with him and Jamie Foxx?
No. He's a bad guy, which Mark, we're not clear yet. Mark might be a bad guy. But no, this is one that came out not too long ago, and he's like an international spy or something like that, which we think Mark is, but we can't get any answers out of him. So as our final discussion today of our inaugural podcast, let's talk about Mark. We've known Mark like 5 years, and just information just trickles out very slowly. We knew him for almost no time. For a couple years.
I still don't know what he does for a living.
Nobody does, and you can't ask him. And he's got verbal judo all day. If you ask him how he works, where he works, what he does, he's just got this way of like making you think about other stuff. It's like these aren't the droids you're looking for, kind of stuff. He has Ed. Mark. If you compare Mark to like a Sith Lord, he's got a couple of Darth Mauls under him, and one is Ed, which we call Shoyo Ed or Ed Yorol, and the other one is Half Fife, which is Ricky Fife. And he had Ed convinced that he works in property management because we were talking about Mark probably flies black helicopters. He's doing operations overseas. All this secretive underground stuff. And he goes, "Come on, he didn't tell you guys what he really does." And we're like, "No, what did he tell you?" "Yeah, he's a property manager." And we just all started laughing because we knew that was subterfuge.
It's funny you bring this up because I never really thought about it because I never knew what he did. And I asked him a couple times and it was very vague what he said.
Yeah.
But like he might actually be something we don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's been speculation. Stuff comes out. I mean,
I don't think he's a spy though because his face is on Facebook and stuff like that, so we couldn't do that.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was to convince mankind he didn't exist.
Oh, that's pretty true.
That says everything about Markezinho right there, I think. But like I said, he's a very unassuming guy, very professional, comes in a shirt and tie. And then we find out, 2 years after he's been here, doesn't really say much about himself. He's trained in a bunch of different martial arts, and we're not clear how far he got in any of them. We know that he did Enshin, which is full contact, bare knuckle Japanese karate. He did Tang Sudo, and this could be disinformation, but as far as I know, he got all the way up to his black belt test. Decided that the whole experience was, belt factory-esque, and said, "Screw it," and just walked away. Last minute, right at his black belt, they just walked out. It's just the kind of guy he is. Found out that he beat up a guy in the woods. He got into a self-defense situation in the woods in Griswold. Nothing happens in Griswold. He's in the woods, and he beats up a guy in the woods. And the cops have to come in the woods and collect this guy, which this is pre-jiu-jitsu, but, Markezinho basically,
I've known Mark for 5 years, and I've never, ever heard that story.
Yeah, no, he went Vanderlei Silva on a guy in the woods. Look at him right now. He's itching his face. We found out. You probably haven't heard this either.
This brings up a whole new realm to me. I didn't even really think about this.
This is crazy. So he's down in South America. He's in Ecuador, or where was it?
Venezuela.
Venezuela, yeah. He's in Venezuela. Guy comes up to him with an Uzi. Mark's nodding his head. He's not denying this. Guy comes up to rob him with an Uzi. Mark talked his way out of getting robbed with a machine gun. And I don't know if what it was is that he basically, he said, "I don't know if you know this, but, I'm an international, operative or whatever. I could have your entire family killed, walk away with your little gun, and I'll let you live." We don't know what happened because he's so... Mark, comment on this if you would.
Oh, look at the time. Yeah, Sunday morning. Should be wrapping this up, I guess, huh?
Jason Fife, you can cast a little light on this. Another thing we know about Mark is that in his free time, he just walks into the woods. And I'm not just talking about to beat guys up. I'm talking about he'll drive to Canada and he'll walk. They don't have miles in Canada, right? He'll walk 200 kilometers into the woods. He'll walk right up to mooses and up mountains and stuff. He'll go live out there. He made a knife out of an antler and a saw blade. This thing looks like a kukri.
No, it wasn't a saw blade. You make it out. It was like a piece of metal, and you sharpened it up.
Blade.
Okay, I've been corrected.
Jason Fife, what can you tell? I mean, we don't know nothing about this guy, and I don't get the feeling that he's sinister. I don't think he is, because with all the shenanigans that I pull, I'd be dead, right? But he's just.
There's a chance after this podcast you might be.
I think that's entirely true. So, Mark, I should tell you that this is being broadcast to the internet live, so that there is evidence. Go ahead, Jason Fife. Your mic.
I have no idea who he actually is.
You're on his payroll, aren't you? That sounded deflective.
Well, I am glad that we're somewhat good with Markezinho, because if we don't know, I mean, it's better to be on his side than against him.
Yeah, we went down to train with Marcio Stambowski, who's our esteemed jiu-jitsu teacher, and I brought him. Mark and I went down there for a private class. This is almost 2 years ago, probably, and he had never met Mark before, and it was like instant connection. He just loves Mark. He loves Markezinho, my brother. Nice to see you. Come here, give me a hug. Loves Markezinho. You know, it was almost as if they already knew each other. Now, I don't want to say that they did, but it was almost like they did. Mark, comment if you would.
No comment.
Dead air, Mark.
No comment.
See what I'm saying? See how hard it is to pry stuff out of this guy?
It really is. I'm after this podcast, I want to go up to him and ask him privately what he does, but I'm afraid. I'm almost afraid to find out now. Like, one of those things, like, if you know, like, it could be bad for you.
You know too much.
Yeah, if you know too much. Like, I don't know. I don't think I'm ever going to ask Mark another question again. It doesn't have to do with martial arts.
Yeah, yeah. Even the martial arts things, you're probably not going to get a straight answer. He's just.
Well, I asked him today about a move, and he kind of vaguely told me where to put my leg.
Yeah. What do they call that? Is it called Sears School, where they put like the really like frontline military guys through training, like torture training, basically, so that if they're under, Mark's nodding his head because he knows about this. That if they get captured and they're being tortured, how to withstand torture and not talk. I feel Mark has been through this. I feel like Mark thinks he's going through it right now.
I was just going to say that.
Well, this has been a great podcast. We've gotten nowhere. We talked about some guys hugging each other with their legs. Pajama wrestling.
I do have one question for you. I've heard of 50-50 guard. Now I kind of know what it is.
Yeah.
But I don't really. Because it sounds like you just drop back for ankle locks. But
sort of.
What is the other one? It begins with a B.
Berimbolos.
Yeah, what the heck is that?
That comes from like De La Riva, reverse De La Riva position, and those guys love that stuff too.
I don't know.
That's a pretty controversial move because it seems like all the old school guys, which I guess I'd kind of put us in that camp, hate that move because it's relatively new, but it works. Period. It works. Like guys are catching that in all weight categories now, and it's a lot. It looks a lot more complicated than scissor sweep or whatever, but it works. Guys are catching it left and right. Ricky Fife, Half Fife, was telling me that if you do a YouTube search for Berimbolos, 80% of the responses are how to defeat the Berimbolos. So it's effective. But
well, any move that isn't new, a lot of people are catching because a lot of people don't know it. And then once people, it's like rubber guard. Rubber guard's great. I love it.
But I've had guys try this on me.
I don't know how to do it, but I know it's good. But people, once they started defending it, like when I was teaching half guard, I felt really good from half guard. I was sweeping everyone with it. And then I started showing it in class and, showing some defenses for it. And now, with my students, when I try and do half guard them, they shut it down.
Right.
Because it's like they know it.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there'll be a general learning curve with the Berimbolos. But I wonder if it's just going to become a piece of jiu-jitsu in the future because it really is. And there's white belts pulling it off. Jason Fife, your opinion on the Berimbolos, if you would.
I hate that move.
You don't like it?
No,
yeah, because your guy there. We have a kid here. We call him YouTube because it's almost like his brain has an uplink to YouTube. He can just download all the videos. He's a white belt. He's a good white belt, but he does Berimbolos, all the time.
That's Helson Gracie's favorite move, isn't it?
Yeah. Helson Gracie doesn't even do butterfly guard, from what I understand, because he considers it too new school. I could be wrong on that, but what do you think about Berimbolos, Markezinho?
I think Josh is kind of onto something. Once people start to see it, I think it'll be shut down more and more. I think it's just a kind of a new thing that people are trying out.
Yeah, and I think maybe the other reason that there's a backlash towards it is because it is a pretty athletic thing. You kind of invert, you kind of go upside down. It's something that if you're not in shape to do it, it doesn't work. So you get guys that get sort of resentful because they can't do it themselves. Maybe, I don't know. We'll have to see. I know I've had it tried on me a couple times, and it's a little mind-boggling, if you don't know what's going on. So, but Jason Fife, any closing statements? You're a very opinionated guy when it comes to martial arts and training and jiu-jitsu. You've been there, done that. You've done a lot of Wing Chun, and you're very, very strange to spar with. So,
no, nothing for closing.
Anything else from our guest?
You might want to edit out the last 3/4 of this.
Is that, I can't tell, is that a threat? Like you have this political way of like dropping threats that was he threatening us or not? Like I can't tell. That sounded like a threat.
Just a suggestion.
That's going to my lawyer, just in case something happens. Anything else? All right, so I think that's it. This has been a fun time. We'll see how this goes. If people like it or not, and if we want to do it again, and if we get some momentum, maybe we'll even come up with a name for it. Something revolutionary.
So this is going to be strictly a jiu-jitsu podcast.
No, I don't think so because I
I got a bunch of subjects we could go over.
Yeah. I think jiu-jitsu is a very vast subject, but we could probably run out of topics fairly quickly. And unlike other jiu-jitsu podcasts that are on the West Coast and where all the good jiu-jitsu guys are and they can get interviews and stuff, to be realistic, we're not getting any interviews outside of people that are in this room right now. So
plus we don't want to upset the 5 people who are listening.
Yeah, that's right. We don't want to be too controversial. So yeah. So next week we'll probably do a deep expose on Jason Fife and where he's come from and all that. Because actually we don't know a whole lot about him either, but we'll leave that where it is. So if you like it, let us know. And if we get a good response, we'll do it again. Do it again next time. So Brazilian Jiu-Jidiots out. By the way, music today was provided by the Soul Merchants, which is comprised of 2 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu students, Brad Wolfson on saxophone and trombone by the great Greg Brayman.